Okay, you guys seemingly wanted it. You're seemingly going to get it. Haverok is really salty about this one. Hey guys, MasakoX here. As you could tell from the prelude, this is something that Haverok has been very observant about, and something that he wished to work with in terms of a what if idea with me, because he'd heard enough about it. There has been a name that has appeared in the chat logs of our weekly What If Roundtable live streams. It's really hard to pinpoint when exactly this movement started, but considering how badly the live chat archiving works here, it's not really a surprise. However, the most recent example of this came from a super chat from one of our regular viewers of the series, the Comic Platypus, and that is Kuriza. Kuriza? Who's that? Is that one of your other OCs, Masako, that you've never talked about before? No? This is something that actually came from Toriyama himself. He's actually a gag character from the surprisingly respected and well-remembered comic Neko Margin Z, as well as a small cameo in Budokai too. Put simply, Kuriza is basically the son of Freeza in the event that he was capable of being able to make a clone of himself. And there has been plenty of fan art of father and son on display here, including this example here from Deadly Chestnut on DeviantArt. Yep, this chestnut may contain certain traces of evil characters, but it's still pretty wholesome, isn't it? In any case, you're probably wondering where on earth would we put this into the main lore. Much like what we did with our Bardock Convince the Saiyan series, we are going beyond the boundaries of the current timeline. But instead of going way back into the past like we did with Bardock, we're going to go just slightly forward in time. Now, in terms of Kuriza's personality and power, if you want to have some kind of idea of what he is relative to the main cast from my point of view, I think he's basically like Peridot from Steven Universe. This all takes place in the aftermath of the Broly movie. Goku and Broly have established contact and set the tone for potential sparring together later and learning from one another the joys of training. Or more accurately, Goku making Broly like training, albeit through much less nefarious means than his father Paragus, of course. Meanwhile, out in the depths of deep space, our new madcap villain of the week, the mellowed out Frieza, is beginning to feel a sort of malaise developing, despite having just gotten the chance to return to life for the third time not all that long ago. You see, just doing the whole conquering planets and doesn't afraid of anything thing had just lost its luster in a way. Is this what his father had experienced in the day when he created Frieza and Frieza assumed control of the Empire? Well, maybe. Frieza decides that it's time for some changes to happen within the Empire to try and make things more interesting for himself. This is a clear mark of how much more mature he has become than he was when he was younger. He knows that with those pesky Saiyans knocking around, including that new one Broly, who he utterly admires in an ironic twist, one thing is very certain. Knowing that Gogeta could just appear at any moment, be whipped out against him, he has got to confirm to himself that his job is going to be noticeably harder from now on. Not only that, but Berry Blue and Kikono, his servants, whilst being quite amusing and a quaint nod to his past, almost being rather fond of them actually, are not the true kind of companionship that he's looking for, that challenges him in any way. With the possible exception of Berry Blue on occasion, but far too infrequently for his liking though. The Emperor feels that he needs a companion more along the lines of someone from his own kind, to be able to stand by his side with the kinds of things that he does all the time. To make him stay alert almost. Father had many uses, yes, but there was always that small little hint of possible betrayal from him, that snarky superiority and patronizing that he had towards him. That did keep them both alive though. Now, I bet you're thinking, Masako, why not just have Cooler come back in here and join forces? Well, Frieza does consider that for a hot second, but then dismisses it. He's just like father. It would be a waste of time bringing him back, trying to get through to him and telling him I was lonely. Dreading thought. I would never be able to live it down. He needed someone who he could shape into his own image and teach things to his liking. So, to counteract this idea of Cooler, Frieza decides that this is the best time for him to spawn his very own offspring. But he won't just simply hand over the control of his empire to this progeny just like that, just like Daddy did. Oh no. That's not the problem here. That's not what Frieza's dealing with at the moment. He is more than capable of doing this task on his own. Having someone similar to himself around will give Frieza another pair of eyes within the Empire and a possibly valuable asset in his spat with the Saiyans. So he decides to go ahead with this plan and spawns, well, Kuriza, very much to the shock of Kikuno and to Berry Blue's great amusement. The two are of course the ones that will do the initial grooming of this Lord Kuriza, which causes a lot of chaos around the capital ship. Wait, there's a son of Frieza now? Oh man, this is going to be something either curious or extremely terrifying. Also, they would spend many hours wondering how Frieza could, make it happen. When Kuriza is fully developed and matured into a fit state, it becomes quite clear that he is quite potent and seems pretty similar to his father in terms of his personality and overall appearance. However, he has one trait that is setting him apart from his dad, certainly. He is very eager. He is extremely enthusiastic to get things done. That's weird. A rather weird development even, but not all that troubling. I'll take this. Whenever the Frieza force is invading a planet, Kuriza wants to be down there, instead of just sending down beam attacks from the ship, just like his father would, attacking with the grunts he wants to do, making sure that his father is watching. He wants to prove himself. Why? Did I just so happen to create an imperfect offspring? A failure? I don't remember such insecurity for myself, Frieza ponders. But this does give me an idea. While Frieza is very grateful for all the attention that the child got from Berry Blue and Kikuno, offspring like that need some other tutors in the mix as well, to ensure a varied upbringing, as well as an eclectic skill set. Frieza orders the mothership to set a course for Earth, and as you might expect, when the ship is almost in Earth's orbit, and Goku and Vegeta can actually sense Frieza there, they are understandably alarmed at this revelation, but they're ready to go and apprehend Frieza, despite the reluctance on Vegeta's part to fuse if they need to, but he will do it if need be. When the door opens and Frieza just casually saunters down the gantry towards them, the prince steps forward and chuckles at this sight.
So, you finally did it! You couldn't help yourself, Frieza. You didn't take the hint from before and left us alone. Do you really want to get your butt kicked again? I mean, I don't mind, but I question your judgment these days,
Vegeta states. But instead of finding this the least bit intimidating, Frieza just simply laughs this off, which slightly annoys the prince. Oh, no, Vegeta, you are quite wrong. Less wrong than usual, but still wrong. I am not here to fight. Not today, at least. You see, I merely came to this dung heap you call home to ask you for a friendly, neighborly favor.
There is nothing friendly about us, Frieza, and there is no favor that I would ever do for you.
Frieza counters this. What if I make you a promise? If you promise to do this simple task for me, I promise that I will never again threaten your puny little planet. I can't guarantee your safety though, but this world shall not be touched by my good self anymore. Scoffs aplenty from the prince here.
Huh! And are we all supposed to actually believe that?
You're not exactly the most trustworthy of people, you know. You've proved that far too many times to count.
No, trust me, Lord Beerus is more than free to mediate with this, if that makes you feel any less scared. Goku and Vegeta look at each other, quite puzzled. But Vegeta, though, has heard enough of this bluster.
Get to the point.
Frieza casually walks onto the Earth's surface, right up into Vegeta's face. I don't suppose you could understand, but running the Frieza Empire, it isn't easy. I decided to slow down on the whole conquest stuff, and instead focus on internal affairs for a change, making it stronger. But in order for me to do that, I need to be focused. And in order to achieve this focus, I need to know that my son is in good hands. Frieza smiles, seeing the shock of both of the Saiyans and his own men. You're what? Both Goku and Vegeta exclaim in surprise. Frieza then introduces Kuriza, who suddenly becomes very shy in the presence of these two men that, as far as he's concerned, are equal in power to his father. He timidly walks up to his father and somewhat hides behind him for safety.
You're joking, right? Why would you send him here, of all places?
Vegeta is baffled by all of this going on right now. Oh, come on, Vegeta. Think for 1 second in your life. It's quite simple. So simple, in fact, that I'm sure that this one here could understand it. He motions his hand to Goku. As much as I hate to admit it, a lot of what I am today has been shaped by you monkeys. Your kind, especially you, Goku, made me what I am today. And I think of that as a very illuminating experience. So, if my son is ever going to rule my empire someday, he needs something similar to happen to him. Nothing that I could teach him could come close. I'm tired of this little tiff of ours, my dear monkeys. It's clear to me that we can never truly best each other.
Actually, I've kind of beaten you twice.
As I said, who better than my 2 best rivals to mentor my son for a while?
Kakarot, this is a trap! This brat is surely a ticking time bomb!
Yeah, but you heard what he said. He will leave Earth alone if we just take care of his son for a little while. It doesn't seem that hard. Besides, he doesn't look all that bad.
Kuriza spits in Goku's eye. So much for that then. Oh my! Frieza laughs. I think he likes you, he says jokingly. Goodbye, Kuriza. Be nice to Uncle Goku and Uncle Vegeta now, would you? Daddy will come back for you as soon as I'm all done with the office stuff. Ta-ta! Kuriza says nothing, watching his father leave in the mothership. Vegeta initially doesn't want to have anything to do with this child, but Goku's able to convince him to go along with it for the time being. If they can influence Kuriza to be on their side, perhaps, maybe he'll turn out better than Frieza did. He gives Vegeta, himself, and Piccolo as examples of this fact. Vegeta still protests though, as he believes that nothing good could ever come out of the Frieza race, but he decides that it would be better to keep an eye on this kid. And of course, the rest of the Z-Fighters are equally shocked with this reveal, with Krillin having some very unsettling flashbacks. Kuriza is pretty passive though, and looks to the sky when someone tries to apprehend him. He shoots a ki blast or spits on them or something. Gohan suspects that this child may have an ulterior motive in being here, and that it would be wise to keep an eye on him. For the moment, Kuriza is staying at Capsule Corp, and the teenage Goten and Trunks are tasked to watch over him. They try to get him to talk, get him interested in anything, but all that ends up with is a wild goose chase around the Capsule Corp grounds, and Kuriza mischievously destroying a large portion of the streets nearby. This enrages Vegeta, who yells at him and points out that his father had left him here, so he better cooperate, or else Vegeta will send him packing back into space personally. Kuriza is pretty bummed out about that. Apparently, being left out of things really gets to the little guy, though he tries not to show this too much. That evening, he's sitting outside, looking to the stars again, as if he's waiting for his father to take him back. However, he is approached by a toddler Bra, who snuck out of her bedroom.
Hello.
Kuriza glares at her.
Can you talk?
Yes.
Go away.
Bra tilts her head.
Why are you so angry? What are you doing?
Waiting for Papa to take me back from here.
Can I wait with you?
Kuriza looks at her for a moment, trying to figure out whether this act of empathy is genuine, or another ruse on Vegeta's part to try and get him to spill the beans on him being here.
All right, but don't get too close.
Bra sets herself down and looks up to the exact same spot in the sky.
You're from space?
Yes, stop talking.
Aren't stars pretty up close?
Kuriza just scoffs this asinine question. I don't care. Maybe.
Hey, I'm sorry that you missed your dad.
Miss him. Miss him. I am Kuriza, heir to the Freezer Empire. I do not miss anyone. I have no time for your monkey touchy-feely nonsense.
Bra starts to tear up, and Kuriza? Well, her crying makes him feel worse than expected.
Oh, don't cry, don't cry. Your dad is going to be mad at me.
Why are you being so mean to me?
Because you're a monkey.
And what's wrong about being a monkey?
My dad says that I'm not supposed to talk to monkeys.
My daddy told me not to talk to you, but he's asleep now, and your papa's in space. They're not here.
Bra then stops simpering, and much like how 4-year-olds do, changes tack almost instantly.
Have you ever played hide and seek?
Played? What's that?
Bra explains to Kuriza the rules of the game, and the two begin to play. For the first time on Earth, Kuriza's actually having fun. The fun is interrupted, however, by a panicked Bulma, who realizes that Bra is not in her bed. When Vegeta sees her playing with Kuriza, he demands that he be moved away from Capsule Corp, away from his daughter at once. And this upsets both children, and this time the Son family are tasked with taking care of him. Kuriza is angry. He wanted to play with the monkey girl. He did nothing wrong. They were having fun. That is until that Vegeta came in and spoilt it. No wonder his father hated him. Goku, Gohan, and Videl decide that they should try and introduce him to Pan. His upbringing with Pan is much easier, and he seems much more stable that way. Pan also seems to enjoy his company. Goku now has to convince Vegeta that he should let Bra and Kuriza meet again. This might be the way to best communicate with the kid and make him a better person than Frieza. After being spurned by Vegeta, Kuriza has now taken up residence at Mount Palzu with the Song family. After realizing that he liked making friends, this son of Frieza is feeling a little more sociable than when he first arrived and less likely to cause trouble. In Goku's homestead, the young Iceling is spending time with Pan, and unlike the prince, Goku isn't telling him to get lost. This is a nice change of pace, he dare say so. Though Chi-Chi is pretty stressed about her granddaughter's well-being, thinking that this is all just a ploy of the Galactic Emperors to bring them down from within, Goku and Goten are watching him, taking turns to ensure everything is alright, so there is some kind of helicoptering going on. But sure enough, everything is actually hunky-dory. The local dinosaurs do not feel the same way, as the two are having some insane flybys and chases going on around the local cluster of reptiles. First it was Gohan and now this. Those dinos never get a break. There is one particularly haggard dinosaur with a missing section of tail who has seen this all before. It never changes. This can go on for hours, with Pan absolutely loving the chance to fly around the place with such freedom, and someone who can actually fly as well. Still though, the older Saiyans have to steer the two back home from time to time, so that they don't wander too far away from home. Even though it really isn't much of an issue since Pan can sense energy, so she can actually tell how to get home, but you know, force of habit with your family and all that. Finally, it is time for their first dinner, which for Chi-Chi is a worrying time. Usually she can expect to have a mixed bag of manners and etiquette with her husband, making up the worst of said manners, despite being grateful for the food itself, of course, don't get him wrong. She just wished that he would, for once, use a napkin for its intended purpose. Now with Kuriza here, she dreaded what kind of slovenly space manners that he would bring to her table. But surprisingly, she needn't have worried. Kuriza not only has decent table manners, especially for someone of his perceived age. They prepared him some seafood, thinking that that's all he ate, as Goku remarked that one time he remembered Vegeta talking about Frieza seeming to like crabs for some reason, from what he could recall. Kuriza even thanked Chi-Chi courteously, as well as without having anything in his mouth while doing it.
That was delicious, human woman. What you have prepared is far better than the things that we usually eat at home.
Chi-Chi is taken aback, but in a good way. She blushes a little bit with the compliment, as she didn't expect it from the son of Frieza.
Thank you, dear, but you can call me Miss. That would be a more polite way of referring to me.
Kuriza is receptive to learning more about Earth culture and nods fervently.
As you wish, Miss Human Woman.
It's an improvement. At the same time though, she notices that as much as Kuriza can be quite snarky with the likes of Goku and Goten, he seems to act pretty cordially towards her. She's quite curious as to why this is. Did Frieza teach him to respect women and be polite towards them, as well as potential hosts? Perhaps Frieza wasn't so callous when you really looked into his daily habits. Later that day, she decides to ask him about this. Kuriza is happy to satisfy her curiosity.
Oh, Miss Human Woman, I know better than to get on your bad side.
Okay, she didn't expect that. Bad side? Whatever do you mean?
Well, I've carefully observed the way that you treat the two other monkeys that live here in your house. Normally, they would be running riot and causing havoc without a care in the world, but one shout from your good self causes them to cease their oafish behavior. You must be really powerful to be able to quell their temperament and impertinence.
Chi-Chi is stunned, but not insulted. She found what Kuriza just said strangely endearing. The next day, Pan and Kuriza are playing as per usual, when the latter asks Pan a question.
Might I ask when we can see the other monkey girl? Oh, boy? Well, my grandpa is trying to convince Uncle Vegeta to bring her here to play. Wait, so Son Goku is your grandpa?
Pan laughs a little bit at Kuriza being silly.
Duh! Who do you think I was? Just some random kid? Don't you know what a grandpa is? Of course I know what a grandpa is. I do have one, but I've never met him. He passed before I was born. Also, My father doesn't talk about him much.
This calms Pan down, realizing that she probably touched a nerve.
Well, do you have any other family?
She says a little more quietly.
I suppose there is Berry Blue and Kikono. They hang around a lot and taught me most of what I know now, but they're not exactly family. They are servants of my father's, so, well, I think it's only me and my father in terms of family.
Pan then pats Kuriza on the back quite firmly.
Well, I can be family if you want. Everybody should have a family. I'm like, your monkey sister.
Kuriza doesn't know what to say. The affection that Pan was showing him was similar to Bulla, but without the spectre of Vegeta around to quash it, this outreaching was really nice to receive. He smiles and nods a little, as if to say thank you. Perhaps he can have two families after all. Meanwhile, back out in space, some of the remainder of the Frieza force are still scouring some of the worlds that were once lost during Frieza's absence. Now with their leader back, they were looking for new recruits on these directionless planetoids, as well as reclaiming their own technology that was lost in the meantime. We now follow two Frieza soldiers as they are busy checking out an icy planet that's true name was lost to time. During the occupation of the Cold Force, it was known as Cold Planet 720, and this was one world that King Cold left to himself after handing over the reins to his son. As a result, it was omitted from the Frieza Force archives as it was under the control of his father, and therefore outside of Frieza's jurisdiction. Think of it as King Cold's special shed, where nobody else is allowed to interfere.
Hey, 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 stay out of my shed.
The soldiers were a little nervous about coming here. They had found the coordinates to this place in an old manifesto somewhere from what had been reclaimed from one of the earliest Freezer acquisitions.
Well, if we find something special, Lord Freeza will reward us handsomely. Did you hear how much he paid that green-skinned girl that brought her back that huge Saiyan?
Oh, yes, but don't spill the beans over the comms. If Lord Frieza has no memory of this place, he might think we're insulting his intelligence. And you know what happens if you insult his intelligence.
Oh, right.
The two soldiers, Bilberry and Prune, then come across a huge laboratory complex in a deep valley. What's really mysterious here is the fact that most of the machinery is not only in one piece, but it's also functional and operating before their very eyes. From what they can gather, there seems to be no life forms nearby. It all seems to be automated and has been for decades. Bilberry, who is the younger of the two, is more eager to check out this quarry. Inside, he finds 3 small capsules and 1 massive one. It still has an insignia on it, freshly preserved as if it had been printed yesterday, dating back to the times of the Cold Force.
Prune, I think you should take a look at this.
What do you think this is? Some secret super soldiers? Maybe the next Ginyu Force?
Well, should we check inside?
Bilberry decides to press the release button on the biggest capsule. He won't be wasting his time on those smaller ones when you can go for the biggest prize first. It starts to slowly open, covering the whole room with steam from the hydraulic release. For a moment, the two of them are consumed by the vapor, but that clears soon enough, and the mood turns to that of being completely shocked from what they see emerge. The silhouette in the smoke looks just like
Lord Free...
mutters Prune before he gets sent flying into a wall.
How long? Asks a voice calmly.
How long? What? My lord?
Bilberry is completely stunned. How long was I asleep, soldier? Bilberry is quivering with confusion. The figure looks to the armor he is wearing and recognizes it. The figure sounds slightly crestfallen. I see that the Frieza Force is still a thing, yes?
Yes, Lord Frieza's recently returned after his unfortunate demise.
Demise? What about his father?
His demise was more permanent, my lord.
And who was the one to do this, soldier? Barely getting a chance to stammer out a reply, Bilberry blurts out,
The same people who managed to defeat Lord Frieza! It's Saiyans! The last 2 remaining ones, and the filthy half-breeds, but there are wish-granting wolves and...
Start from the beginning. I wish to know everything. Do kindly release my squadron from their cages. Also, I think your friend might be in need of medical attention. I would hate to waste a soldier so soon after acquiring one. Get to work.
Yes, sir.
In the meantime, Frieza is off in space doing his usual conquering of planets, having returned to his mundane, everyday existence. What he doesn't like, however, is how often his thoughts start to drift back to Kuriza. He is almost constantly wondering if his progeny will fulfill his mission and take down the Saiyans from within, so Chi-Chi was right to suspect that initially. You know, as well as getting some useful intel from the Bulma woman. She may be a monkey-like being, but she was quite well furnished in the brain department. Frieza had previously never really put much thought into getting further information about all those other Earthlings and their families, and Son Goku seems to really care about those weaklings. Something that might be an exploitable weakness in the future.
So, you actually sent him off. Now you are alone again. Wasn't the whole purpose of this escapade to cure you of your loneliness, sire?
Barry Blue is there as always with the snarky remarks.
If you think that I miss him, then you are wrong. I was prepared to rule since I was a little grub at my father's side. We live in a different world now, so my little Kuriza needs to adapt if he's ever going to inherit the Empire someday. It's not as simple as handing over the keys one minute and ruling the next. And if he doesn't carry out your mission, will you spurn him and spawn a new creation? No, that only causes trouble, as I'm sure you are very well aware of. We shall never speak of this again. As you wish, Lord Frieza.
Barry Blue smiles. Back on Earth, Vegeta has carried out his compromise and brought Bulla over to Goku's place to play, but he is grumpier than ever.
Hey, Monkey Girl! Monkey Sister and I were just talking about you. Come on, let's play!
Not so fast, you little snake. If anything happens to my baby girl, I'm going to pack you and your father into a capsule and throw that capsule into the nearest star. Do you understand?
You are very strong, but can you really throw that hard?
What? You impertinent little...
Vegeta? Goku chimes in looking quite serious, as if to say, remember the deal.
Fine. Just don't do anything that you will live to regret, little worm.
And so Kuriza is allowed to play with the girls. Even Vegeta, who is watching from afar, must admit that he isn't doing anything bad. Even when they're play fighting, Kuriza isn't really trying to hurt them. They show each other various moves and attacks that they saw the adults perform. Vegeta's not so happy of his baby girl showing off. But wait, when did she learn the final flash? Oh, that's his girl. Okay, this isn't so bad after all. At the end of the day, the three are exhausted and fall asleep in the yard. Vegeta has to admit that, so far, he hasn't seen anything fishy coming from the creature. You know who he reminds me of? Chi-Chi chimes in while giving Vegeta and Goku some tea.
His ugly father?
No, you, Vegeta! Son of an evil ruler who had a lot to prove, who seemed pretty bad at first?
You're pushing your luck.
Meanwhile, on Cold Planet 720, the mysterious figure is confiding with its three minions, now free from their captures as well as the newly recruited Prune and Bilberry, who are only really following him now out of fear.
So he spawned a runt and sent him to Earth. Interesting. He is more foolish than I thought. But that golden form sounds pretty formidable, my lord. Not that you aren't amazing already, of course.
This being said from a worried voice with a hint of a French accent in it.
Oh, don't worry. This facility will allow us to train. I need to get some gains if I am to confront him. As for that golden form, the mysterious villain looks around the room. If my brother could reach it, then so can I.
It's been some time since the last chapter and things have changed quite a bit. Kuriza's stay on Earth was getting longer and longer than had been anticipated. Much more so. Everyone concerned, including himself, thought that this would be just a temporary situation, but not so. Frieza had sort of forgotten about him, or at the very least, he hadn't felt the need to come back and check, being a helicopter parent or anything like that. Was he resentful about this, being abandoned by his father seemingly? At first, yes, he was a little sore, but things were changing rather quickly. It seems that, thanks to a little bit of patience, as well as being allowed to play with his new half-Saiyan friends, Bulla and Pan some more, Kuriza is turning out to be a pretty civil child. Granted, Frieza's personality when around people he respects and acknowledges is civil already, but this iteration of said persona seems to be much more sincere than his papa. When he's entertained, he's pretty obedient to his elders and caretakers, even going so far as to a point that he even helps Miss Human Woman, that's Chi-Chi by the way, do the dishes and help with other chores without even being asked. Not gonna lie, Chi-Chi is completely enamored with this one. If only my husband was so proactive.
Yes, father did say he was quite easily distracted.
He also likes it whenever Gohan stops by to provide some makeshift classes for him and read to the young'uns about Earth's history. All sorts of topics are covered, and the trio are surprisingly receptive. Pan is, of course, because it's her daddy talking. Bulla, because she's basically her mother and soaks up information like a sponge. And as for Kuriza, He just likes to be involved in some way and show that he's trying to be a good boy and not cause any trouble.
You know, Monkey Pal,
He says one time to Bulla.
your planet Earth is not as boring as I thought. When I got here, I wanted my father to just blow it up and we go away. I didn't see the point of this place when I got here, but now I don't want that to happen anymore. I like it here.
Now Bulla, not fully understanding Kuriza's initial thoughts, because remember, she's only 5, just laughs.
Oh, that's nice of you to say. I'm glad you're here. You're fun and pretty strong.
Kuriza blushes a little bit and thanks Bulla for the compliment. It still felt weird though for these monkeys to cause him to feel such emotions, but yeah, it was a good kind of weird. Even Vegeta was starting to come around to him. Whenever he is there to provide supervision, Kuriza does his very best to be extra attentive and compliant, which leaves the prince pretty bemused. The little worm had started to respond to his commands readily, without question. This is uncanny, as well as surreal. Now, you would think that Vegeta would appreciate being shown some respect, but actually, it's not as easy as that. The prince actually hates this. This is way too easy, and far too weird for him to just accept. All of this sucking up by Kuriza is forcing Vegeta to think back to his past. What might have been? Things could have been so different if the right environment for Frieza had been fostered. About how Frieza could have turned out if he was raised by some decent people and not his sleazy businessman-like sneaky father who just wanted a successor and a vessel for pure carnage. What if? One day, Kuriza has plucked up enough courage to approach Vegeta on his own, which takes the Saiyan by surprise.
Mr. Vegeta Monkey, sir?
What do you want, freak?
Kuriza had long since tuned out the slurs. I mean, to him that was just how Vegeta talked. The son of Frieza looks at his feet, unsure how to phrase what he wants to say.
I wanted to ask you something. Bulla told me something about something you can do.
I do a lot of things. Be more specific.
It was something called Super Saiyan?
What about it?
Could you show me, please?
That was unexpected. Vegeta is absolutely stunned by this request, but he tries not to show it, of course. He's taking interest, but taking an interest, though, that in itself was interesting.
It's nothing special these days. Why are you even asking me? You can ask Kakarot or one of his kids to show you. Why bother me?
Kuriza gazes a little at the prince and blushes.
Yes, I could do, but they aren't as cool as you.
Okay, this was harder to conceal for the prince. Vegeta felt that his heart had just skipped a beat. He was cool? Well, I mean, of course, he knew he was cool, but to hear it coming out of the mouth of someone spawned from his greatest enemy? Well, it's safe to say that he is very unsure what to think about this.
I guess I could show you. Just this once. I'm not some kind of dancing monkey for your entertainment.
No, you're a fighting monkey.
Vegeta really needs to teach this brat actual names someday. And so, Vegeta decides to show Kuriza the transformations that Super Saiyans possess, going all the way up to Super Saiyan Blue Evolution, what we know as of now to be the highest transformation. He then decides to regale Kuriza with everything he knows about the Super Saiyan legend, to see how his interpretation differs from Frieza's, if he even bothered to tell his son about them. To his surprise, again, the squirt seems to be genuinely awestruck. He is hanging on his every word and amazed with how cool it all sounded. He is very eager to listen. Vegeta keeps it together, but only just. If only Trunks was like this when he was younger, it would have been so much easier. Kuriza then chooses to share stuff about himself.
We can transform too, but we don't have any cool legends for that. We just sort of do it, you know?
Well, trust me. Legends can sometimes be not all that they're cracked up to be.
As Vegeta's barriers are starting to slowly break down, Chi-Chi and Goku are looking at this all from afar.
Well, I never expected this. Vegeta being nice to him? Aren't they precious? That one is a gem. You could learn a thing or two from him, Goku.
Chi-Chi grins. Goku nods, not actually understanding the indirect backhand that his wife was aiming at him. He keeps looking at Kuriza.
One thing's for sure. I can't wait to see the day when this one becomes the new leader of the Frieza Force. Maybe they'll turn out to be better, like the Galactic Patrol or even the Pride Troopers.
Chi-Chi rolls her eyes.
Well, hopefully he won't turn out like Jocko. We don't need more layabouts in that patrol.
Meanwhile, Time has also passed on Cold Planet 720. Bilberry and Prune, the two Freeza mooks who had unearthed Cooler from his slumber in the last chapter, are far too weak to train with their new leader, Lord Cooler, directly. It was very apparent from the very first session. Cooler had just whipped his tail on the ground casually and it sent them flying. Was this really what his brother's men had become? This will be too easy. But at the very least, the weakling pair watch as Cooler and his armoured squadron are training themselves up, increasing the tyrant's power with each passing day. While they were forced into submission, Lord Cooler doesn't terrorise them or anything. He's much less fickle than Lord Freeza. He at least respects these two for bringing such an opportunity to his front door.
That's enough for today, Souser,
says Cooler, spotting a gold aura starting to form around himself.
I think I've almost figured it out. I knew it. If my brother can do it, then so can I.
Souser is getting excited with this revelation.
So, Monsieur Cooler, you will be able to challenge your brother soon, I see? Not so fast, my overly eager friend. We cannot just be as good as my brother right now. We have to be better. Far better. You two.
He looks to the two weaklings quivering in the corner of the room at the sight of all of this power. Bilberry gulps loudly.
Yes, Lord Cooler?
I want you to do a little bit of digging for me. You two are so insignificant that nobody will suspect you. Go gather some intel as to the whereabouts of my brother, and then let me know if his brat is still on Earth. I would very much like to introduce myself to my nephew.
The two Freezer Force minions gulp and look at each other, but they decide to obey. I mean, what other option do they have? Meanwhile, Freeza himself is checking on the progress of his troops. To his big disappointment, a lot of his earlier acquired worlds aren't looking as rosy as he had thought. They were either now in ruins, had regressed to the point of being worthless, or had already been scavenged by splinter groups. One thing is for certain, Sorbet had not done a good job in maintaining his empire while he was away. He had barely been able to keep the core element of it going, actually. Merely surviving for Freeza wasn't good enough. He also notices a sudden absence of any reports from Bilberry or Prune. He has 2 scouts.
What a surprise! More disappointment. Do I have to now deal with deserters? I swear, those new minions are nothing like what my minions used to be. Oh, Sorbet, you are so inadequate.
Maybe you should check on Kuriza, my lord. Take your mind off of the stresses of ruling your born-again empire.
Berry Blue suggests. Frieza scoffs at this suggestion.
As much as I appreciate the welfare check on my boy, Berry Blue, it is not necessary. My son is intelligent enough to learn how to take care of himself. Besides, I'm sure he doesn't need me getting in the way of his mission. I bet right now he is well into infiltrating the Saiyans and getting some good intel for me. When he returns, I will be ready to bring down those monkeys for good.
Or, you know, Berry Blue smirks, he could have a normal upbringing.
What is that supposed to mean? This is normal. Father did this with me all the time, and I turned out all right.
Oh, yes, my lord. You turned out great.
Days and weeks pass, and while Kuriza continues to miss his father, he doesn't have much time to dwell on this too much. His new companions are giving him more than enough stuff to do, so he's pretty entertained. At some point, Bulma took him and the girls on a trip around the world, so the young Frost Demon could actually appreciate Earth firsthand even more. And while he still tries to rule over every new person that he meets, he assures them that he's going to be a benevolent ruler when he grows up. If they obey, of course. Nowadays, the Dragon team are not afraid to turn their back on the kid, and likewise, Kuriza feels comfortable around them. He still hasn't bothered to learn their names at all, but Krillin can somehow get used to being called Mr. Baldy No-Nose. He had worse back at the monastery when he was a kid, especially since there is no Frieza-esque venom in Kuriza's words. It's all harmless. But one day, when the kids were playing around Mount Paozu, they witnessed a vessel landing.
Oh, Father's back.
Kuriza seems excited by this, and Buller and Pan decide to accompany him. Vegeta and Goku chase after them as well, not sure what's going on. They can trust Kuriza now, but his father? That's a whole other ballgame. But, to their surprise, it's not Frieza. It's a different person who comes out of the ship. He looks similar to Frieza, but he's slightly cooler, Vegeta mutters.
He's Frieza's older brother. I thought he was decommissioned ages ago. That's right, Prince Vegeta.
Cooler gives Vegeta a polite bow.
I've spent some time chilling out in a cryo-sleep capsule. Seems that I've missed out on a lot. What are you doing here?
Oh, nothing bad. I just happened to learn that I have become an uncle. I merely wish to say hello. Kuriza looks at Vegeta, puzzled. That's right, little one. I'm your uncle, and I can take care of you now. My brother was sure that I had perished ages ago, but now we can be a family again. He'll be so happy to see us hanging out together. The Saiyans aren't buying this one bit.
Kuriza was left under our care, Cooler. You needn't worry.
Goku's eyes narrow. Oh, please. You two really think that his egomaniacal father would actually come back for him? I have no quarrel with you Saiyans. All I want is to look after my nephew.
I want to stay here.
I know. Change is hard for a youngling such as yourself, but do not be afraid. I can teach you how to transform even more. Show you how to be a powerful member of our race.
You heard the kid. He doesn't want to go with you.
Cooler takes a deep sigh. I sincerely hoped that it wouldn't have come to this. Oh well. And so, Cooler powers up, and him and his squadron charge at Goku and Vegeta, with Kuriza and the girls watching in terror. With Kuriza's uncle getting extremely nettled at his nephew's impudence, the Dragon team are now in the thick of a massive battle, which they did not see coming. Frieza was out of sight. He wasn't going to be getting here anytime soon. He had nothing to do with this encounter. Vegeta and Goku are now having to fight Cooler's armored squadron in the midst of their master, while Kuriza, Bulla and Pan are watching in horror.
I'm scared.
Mutters Bulla, to which she then holds onto Kuriza for safety, who is also afraid of the aftermath of this fight. And this all concerned him. He could not stand this. But Pan though isn't all that worried, since it's looking like this will be over soon enough. And although the Saiyans seem to be winning this first fracas initially, Cooler's lackeys are far stronger than they expected.
What gives with these minions? Usually they are trash underfoot. What's gotten into them?
Goku isn't all that bothered though, since at least it means a decent measuring of their next target. Vegeta does have a point though. These goons do not seem to be total pushovers after all, like they were believed to be. When the Saiyans are in their base forms, they are definitely not able to pull out a clear advantage, nor actually be able to conserve energy ready for the boss battle. Thusly, our heroes have no choice but to tap into their higher powers and begin to push back more aggressively so, powering up to Super Saiyan. Cooler in the distance starts to smile.
Just as I thought. If they have to try this hard with my men, then this will be a walk in the park.
He isn't all that bothered about the fate of his crew really right at this second, and the Saiyans are definitely buoyed up now with their change in plan, which clearly increases their advantage. He must have heard about this legendary power enough to be unfazed. It's gotta be. I mean, it's not exactly a secret. Vegeta is starting to regain this calm and scathing attitude towards the brother of Frieza.
I see that your goons are a little bit outdated in the power level department, Cooler. All these years and for what? A thorough beatdown in front of your brother's greatest enemies? What a show. We've dealt with stronger opponents than this years ago. You're too late to the party.
Oh, so I heard, Cooler says with mirth, his expression not changing since the attack began. And this does alert Vegeta something's not right. He's starting to get the picture that Cooler's plan was going his way, not theirs. They were being played. His minions are clearly on the defensive, yeah, that part is accurate, but why is Cooler still full of himself? And as you might be able to expect, Salza seems to be the one that fights the most ferociously, giving Goku some particularly fun moments here or there, but quite frankly, Tagoma levels of power at the days of End of Z don't exactly impress Goku and Vegeta much. Yet, despite not being able to land a hit that could yield a decent return, the armored squadron seem to be actually not that bothered. They are pretty durable. Clearly, they were built to whittle their enemies down slowly but surely, and then their boss goes in for the prize. They weren't in the business of flashy gimmicks this time around like their old counterparts, the Ginyu Force.
If there's any credit to be given here, it's that Cooler realizes the importance of eschewing gimmicks. Should we get serious and get this whole farce over with, Kakarot?
Aw, Vegeta, that would be unfair. These guys are weaker than us.
Vegeta scoffs at Goku and just simply goes blue, ready to blast the goons away. Goku shrugs sadly and powers up as well. The ki blast explodes.
Oh my, Vegeta Monkey Sir is really cool.
Kuriza seems to be awestruck with the prince's power. After all the dust has settled down, both Saiyans are still surprised that the armored squadron are standing. despite having problems adjusting just moments ago. This really does not seem right at all. They seem a bit tired, sure, I mean, who wouldn't be other than androids with their infinity engines, but they still look them down menacingly, the Saiyans, without a care in the world. These three guys were not budging. They weren't beaten yet. Vegeta is starting to get very perturbed.
How? How are they so durable? Explain, Cooler!
His enemy outstretches his arms with pride and is more than happy to explain. Oh, Prince Vegeta, you don't know how much about my species, do you? Well, it's quite frankly no surprise, considering that my brother is hardly utilizing any of our natural advantages that we as a species possess and have conceived of in our very short existence. While it is true that when it comes to brute strength, you two might have been unmatched up until this point in history, I decided it was time that I got serious. I had to make sure my squadron will serve me as proper sparring partners if I were to gain any sort of power in this rather more competitive universe. Sometimes they're punching bags, but those times are becoming pleasingly rare. And you could do marvels with biotechnology nowadays. It was mostly used so we can grow our own exo body armor, but we tended to modify our soldiers as well, and that useful trait was taken from your kind. But I still consider destroying your planet a waste, though. That was a folly of Frieza's that I to this day still cannot abide by.
You gave them some Saiyan traits?
Vegeta has pretty unsettling flashbacks to the days of Cell, and his spine hurts a bit, who also contained Saiyan traits, DNA to be specific. Not a good sign either way.
They're far more intelligent than you, and those tails, forget it. In their case, their increase goes squarely into their durability. They can keep going for hours.
Goku wonders about this for a split second.
How many times did he knock you guys out for that effect to work?
Salza laughs.
Oh, so many times, mon ami. But Monsieur Cooler made it worth our while. And as you can see, we are much mightier than we used to be. Our master is a genius beyond comparison. We are still fighting your personal meat shields, no matter what you call them. If you are trying to impress us, you are failing spectacularly.
Vegeta starts to aim a ki blast directly at Cooler.
Oh, on the contrary, Vegeta. I'm actually stalling you for time.
Cooler smiles slightly.
What? What do you mean?
Vegeta seems thrown out of the loop, and honestly a little bit irritated by Cooler's coyness.
As much as I would like to face you in a good old-fashioned battle, I have important family matters to attend to that are far more important than some silly squabble about monkeys. You see, one of the reasons my father decided to put me on ice, for want of a better phrase, is that he was becoming afraid of me, of what I was capable of. I was too similar to himself for his own liking. Frieza was a far more desirable choice in his eyes. The fool.
Suddenly, the sky around our heroes goes black, with them seeing a gigantic, coiling green dragon in the distance. Goku seems surprised. Who knew about the Dragon Balls? Who got them?
Shenron? How did you find them so fast?
Oh, that one is easy. I sent a scout party out before I announced my arrival here. Also, gentleman Kikono, whom you might have already met, copied the design of that nifty device that your human female made. I think you quite intimately know who I am referring to, Prince Vegeta.
Cooler wasn't able to finish the sentence as Goku decided to instant transmission towards Shenron, only to discover more minions that were just about to say their wish. Goku, however, interrupts them and attacks them without pause. Meanwhile, Vegeta is ready to face Cooler, who goes straight to his fifth form. But after a bit of a pretty even duel, he then decides to go gold. This fight is pretty impressive, but in all that chaos, no one sees that Salza had slipped away from the group and had gone for Goku. It takes a couple of minutes to get there, and just when Goku's about to chime in for the wish, Salza jumps onto him and covers his mouth. As Goku does his party piece and tries to bite his hand, Salza starts to scream out.
Oh, what barbaric trick is this?
While fighting Vegeta, Cooler communicates with Salza via device.
Stop your blathering and get on with this, we have no more time!
Salza gives Goku a wicked grin. He is durable enough to hold him for a while.
Dragon! I wish that all the Saiyans left in this universe were to be erased.
Your wish is granted.
But Goku doesn't have much time to think about this as he starts to fade, just like Vegeta, who sees in horror the same fate happening not only to him, but also to Bulla and Pan. They were part Saiyan.
Daddy? Kuriza? What's happening?
Kuriza looks absolutely terrified.
Don't leave! Wait!
The little frost demon attempts to catch her, but she just disappears, just like Pan and Vegeta. Meanwhile, Chi-Chi is absolutely mortified to see Goten and Trunks disappearing, while Gohan vanishes mid-conference.
Not a conference!
Far away on planet Vampa, Chilai and Lemmo are left distressed because they cannot find Broly anywhere. Kuriza, for the first time in his life, breaks down in a fit of tears. Hearing this, Cooler breaks off his victory speech to himself and stands over his now mewling nephew.
Feelings such as this are for the weak, child. Your caretakers are gone. Your only option for survival is to come with me.
I'm not going anywhere with you!
Cooler has no time for this back and forth. He simply knocks Kuriza out cold. Gently though, he doesn't want to damage the goods. After this surprising win, Cooler and his minions just simply leave the Earth, leaving Bulma and the others trying to figure out what exactly happened. Meanwhile, Frieza is enjoying the creature comforts of his throne while he gets a call from Bilberry and Prune, reporting back from duty after falling off of the grid months ago.
Finally, what took you two so long? It better be something good or else I'll have to destroy you upon your return.
Oh, it is good, brother.
A voice that sends a shiver down Frieza's spine answers in the most coy way possible.
Cooler, but how? How?
I had a pretty good nap, brother. Also, say hello to your father, my nephew.
What? Kuriza, what have I told you about not leaving with strangers? Also, did you join forces with those monkeys in order to defeat me?
What monkeys, brother?
The Saiyans, you know who I mean.
I don't think you will find a single Saiyan molecule in this universe, brother. I took care of that.
You can't be serious.
Frieza struggles to believe this.
Lord Frieza, a ship is approaching our position!
One of the troopers exclaims.
Stay on target. I will give you orders to blast it should it get too close.
Really? Aren't you worried that you might damage your precious brat?
Frieza pauses for a second.
No, I can always make a new one. That one means nothing to me. I mean, if he allowed himself to be kidnapped by you, then what good is he?
Kuriza is left utterly speechless, feeling a heavy weight of sadness in the pit of his stomach. He's unable to pay much more attention to what's going on anymore. The ship, however, keeps getting closer and closer to the mothership.
My lord, it is in range!
Stay on target and wait.
My lord, soon it will be too close to evade its collision course!
Do not shoot before I make an order!
And that's why, Kuriza, feelings are for the weak, Cooler says as his ship rams Frieza's mothership and he himself launches from the top of the vessel through Frieza's command bridge. There is a fight between the two brothers amongst the wreckage, but Cooler is stronger. Even if they are both able to go gold, the older brother is clearly more powerful. And this battle goes on as Frieza's minions are busy trying to repair the hole in the hull that has sucked some of them out into space. Kuriza is able to watch the fight between his father and uncle and sees how the latter is clearly winning. Slowly and steadily, he punches Frieza out of golden form and he has won. He won't kill him though. He will just simply leave him here, floating in the depths of space, so that everyone can see his failure. After Frieza is defeated, Cooler simply claims the mothership that had been repaired and flies away with it. Frieza drifts in the coldness of space for a long time. When he does finally come to his senses, a terrifying thought comes to his mind. He must find out what happened to those blasted Saiyans. He might need their help in this fight, and he hates this fact with every fiber of his being. In the depths of space, Frieza was stewing with nobody to boss around. In the blink of an eye, his brother had gotten the better of him and was trying to usurp him and his empire, all for the sake of a brotherly squabble. He had to do something to get back at him and make sure that none of his affairs were sullied with, or worse, completely written over. But there was a very pressing problem. No, it's not the need to breathe in space, of course, because he's okay with that. He can't travel far without a ship on his own. So, what else can he do? This, in his mind, might be it. He might be heading back to his own personal hivel again. Oh no, he'd have to see those blasted torturing fairies once more. His thoughts, however, got interrupted, thankfully, by a small ship that came into view, approaching him from not too far away. The vessel bore the insignia of his own force. A few hours ago, the sight of this would have been very, very pleasing to him to see this craft. But now though, he was wary. Had Cooler changed his mind about letting him go and had now decided to finish him off when he was at his lowest ebb where he couldn't actually defend himself? Thankfully for Frieza, it wasn't anyone dodgy. Surprisingly, it actually turned out to be Kikano and Berry Blue, his two most loyal subjects. Frieza broke into a smile and praised the ingenuity of his oldest allies. "Oh, you old dogs. Nothing gets past you two." They had clearly managed to sneak behind Cooler's back and steal a small exploration vessel. With the hatch to the cargo hold of that ship open, Frieza flew straight into it and very glad to actually get some fresh air into his lungs once more. Much nicer than not breathing and being stuck in the coldness of space. When the autopilot had been set, the pair of Kikuno and Berry Blue met with their true master.
Well, my lord, I see you had had enough of enjoying the view firsthand.
Berry Blue had clearly not lost her snark even in the middle of a power grab. "Ha ha, very funny. Now let's get out of here."
Where to, Lord Frieza? Uttered Kikuno. Are you going to show your brother who is the strongest space emperor so soon after your loss?
Now, the Emperor normally would have given his minion a smack for that, but there were bigger matters at hand at the moment, so Kikuno got away with it. Frieza lets out a deep sigh.
No, as much as I hate to admit it, I cannot defeat him alone. To go back in again right now would not only be foolish, it would also be the last thing I ever did in this mortal coil. I doubt I would get another chance at life after this one. No. Instead, we head for Earth. Surely some of the Earthlings have survived Cooler's wrath. They're like space roaches.
But the problem with Frieza's plan was that he was no longer in charge of a mothership that could traverse long distances in mere hours, or at most a couple of days. The ship that they were on right now was near the bottom of the rung in that regard. It wasn't really designed for this kind of long-distance space travel. It was only meant for nearby jaunts, space hopper. As a result, it took the trio a few weeks to get to Earth, and by the time they got there, they were in dire straits and longing for the company of other entities. When they attempted to land on Earth, they were welcomed by some sort of drone defense system. Instead of slipping in unnoticed, a tinny tannoy met their ears.
Stay where you are, or you'll be blown to pieces,
said a certain female voice through the communication systems. Instead of being intimidated though, Frieza held his arms behind his back and puffed his chest out. He wasn't going to be taunted by some drone. "I am Lord Frieza, and I demand to talk to your leader." The drones got even more aggressive, having even fired some warning shots at the vessel. Kikuno was frantically diverting power to the front shields.
"Lord Frieza, be careful! This craft is not as robust as you think. One direct hit, and we're going down."
Frieza scowled. "Hold yourself, Kikuno! I did not hire cowards. We do not budge." The tannoy bled into life again.
"Frieza, you slime! Tell us what you've done with my family and the other Saiyans. If you don't tell me or get the hell out of here, I will blow that little tin can of yours out of the sky."
Frieza spat venom back. "Control yourself, Earthwoman! I had nothing to do with that confrontation."
"I know that it's hard to believe, but it was not myself. My brother started all this mess, and I do not intend to emulate him in any way. In fact, I am here because I need..." "You need what?"
Berry Blue nodded at Frieza, trying to encourage him to finish that sentence. But the Emperor had difficulties in spitting the sentence out of his mouth.
"I need...
It was like he was dry heaving. I require your assistance." The drone zoomed closer, as if the woman was probing Frieza directly.
"Why would I help you?"
Frieza remained composed, though.
"Because my brother has kidnapped my son, and he's stronger than me, all right? Does that make you feel any better? Have I passed your little test, whatever you Earthlings do? We need to get your stupid friends back as well, in order to do so."
There was a pause before the woman replied in a more clipped tone.
"I believe you. For now. Permission to land."
Frieza tried desperately to remember this one's name before meeting with them. He recognized the voice for sure, though. It was Vegeta's mate. That was definitely true. It was the inventor person, but it started with a B. Oh, he was pretty sure of that, but the rest, though, not a clue. They met in one of the Capture Corp buildings adjacent to the central one, and he had to admit that the blue-haired lady looked as tired and haggard as himself. They were clearly very distressed by this whole affair.
"So, how did he do it? How did he get one over us and take away all that we care about?"
"Care about? I didn't think you cared about anything."
Yes, get the wisecracks out of the way, woman. Explain what happened here."
Bulma sighed. "Well, now that I know that you weren't the one behind all of this, apparently, I think he used the Dragon Balls to do it."
"Oh, so can't we just gather them again and wish them back?"
Bulma gave him a piercing and patronizing look. Do you seriously think that we don't know how the Dragon Balls work? First of all, the balls are inert. In order for them to be active again, we need to wait 365 solar days on our planet. Next, it's kind of weird because Shenron couldn't just erase them outright. It's sort of beyond his power to do so. He can't do it really.
So, what are you inferring?
I think he moved them somewhere, far enough that they can't even use instant transmission to escape.
What? Instant transmission? You mean that annoying thing that Son Goku does these days?
Yeah. Frieza thought for a while in silence.
Okay, well, can't we just ask Lord Beerus and his angel manservant to fix this?
Bulma sighed deeply. I already tried. They don't want to interfere in mortal matters. They said solving this is something we could easily do ourselves. Frieza scoffed loudly.
So you have no ideas in that big brain of yours, Tinker Lady?
Bulma glared at Frieza.
I didn't say that.
There is one option. Bulma looked like she was hesitating for a while.
So get on with it. Don't be holding back vital information now.
Fine, there is another set of Dragon Balls. A new Namek.
Woman, I hate to state the obvious, but I blew up Namek, don't you remember? Wait, what do you mean, new?
Bulma knew that she would immediately regret telling him this. Meanwhile, on the capital ship of the Frieza Force, Cooler, or rather Salza, has to deal with a really unruly Kuriza. Instead of being a mewling infant complying with everything, Kuriza had instead grown quite defiant, especially during his time on Earth, very much remembering the training that he had received, especially from Vegeta. He was dodging Salza's grasp quite handily.
Oh, come back, you little...
yelled Salza after Kuriza threw another bowl at him.
Uncle said I have to be unharmed. Joke's on him. I don't want to be here. What are you going to do about it? You can't touch me,
said Kuriza in an annoying sing-song voice, and he then climbed into the ship's vents to further infuriate his babysitter.
Damn you. Why would Monsieur Cooler task me with such babysitting, especially with such a frustrating brat?
Cooler, on the other hand, was busy getting up to speed with the Empire's borders and planning his next invasions. It's kind of funny, actually. What with all the power that his brother had, he could have easily just regained or even expanded the old borders. Well, I mean, he would have been going on with doing this had it not been for all the noise going on.
Oh, please, for the love of my father's corpse, Salza, deal with that child.
I said he has to be relatively unharmed. The chase, however, continued for many hours, as Salza didn't want to damage the ship even more than it was already. The ship's repair droids could only do so much at such a rate, until he realized that Kuriza wasn't making any noise anymore. He had fallen asleep in one of the deeper corners of the vessel, which was only accessible to someone of his size. Salza was too big to reach him.
Well, at least I wore him down. If he weren't a relative of Monsieur Cooler, I'd...
But Kuriza was only pretending to be asleep. He was hatching a plan in his head. His new friends were gone. His father apparently didn't want him. So now, instead, he was going to make the lives of everyone on the ship as miserable as he could. Meanwhile, Bulma, Berry Blue, Kikuno, and Krillin, as well as Piccolo, were traveling towards New Namek.
So let me get this straight,
probed the former emperor.
You've managed to hide an unguarded second set of Dragon Balls away from me for all this time? I must say, that is rather impressive.
It's not unguarded. New Namek is far more fortified than before. And if you ever think of trying to meddle with them, Piccolo warned Frieza.
Then what? We need to wish everyone that is able to stop me back. I'm hardly going to be doing something so stupid as to going against you right now.
Let's stop the infighting for now. The problem is that Namekians may not be so happy after sensing you nearby. So you're gonna have to apologize. The Emperor blinked twice.
You've got to be joking.
I mean, it worked with Vegeta.
No, really. Are you really expecting me to...
Berry Blue interrupted her leader, showing signs of weariness.
You don't need to mean it, my lord. You just have to say the words. That will be enough. But act now. The longer we hesitate, the longer your brother is messing with what we've accomplished since your return.
I see wisdom in your words, Berry Blue.
All right, human woman. Proceed.
That's a shocker. I never thought Frieza knew anyone whose opinion he respects other than his own. You must be really important, lady. Bulma smirked.
Oh, I assure you, Miss Bulma. Much like you, I know how to deal with hard-headed individuals.
They both laughed at this. much to Frieza's and Piccolo's unease. Finally, the team indeed managed to get to New Namek. It did indeed take a lot of explaining to state that Frieza genuinely wasn't here to cause trouble this time, although Mori wasn't really super happy about the fact that Bulma and Piccolo had brought him here on their own accord. They did agree though to summon Porunga, and Frieza had to fight every fiber of his being not to sabotage the whole thing and take one wish for himself. Great Porunga, we want you to undo the wish that caused the disappearance of all the Saiyans.
That is beyond my power. We eternal dragons cannot do such things.
So, how can we save them?
Shenron could not erase your friends, so he put them in a place that you cannot escape alone. Even I cannot transport them out. However, I can transport you to that realm that hosts your friends. You can attempt to help them from the inside.
Frieza looked at the Namekian translating for the dragon. Wait, he said attempt. So do you mean that there's not even a guarantee that... We agree, said Bulma. What? No, wait! You're gonna send us to... Frieza tried to protest.
Your wish is granted.
In one swift move, the entire gang disappeared in a bright flash. After they came to their senses, our heroes awoke in a very dark, underground tunnel. When Bulma turned on her flashlight, she discovered that they were in some sort of labyrinth with way too many openings and corridors to even get their bearings. Well, good job, Earthwoman. Where are we exactly? The Emperor looked around. Piccolo fixed his gaze.
I think I know where we are. This place. It's the Earth Prison.
The Earth Prison?
Yes. It was used as a test for souls to cleanse themselves before either regaining their bodies or...
Frieza sighed loudly. Oh well, at least there are no noisy fairies or teddy bears here. Bulma, Frieza, and Piccolo had successfully ventured to the mysterious realm between reality and the otherworld, called the Earth Prison, in which at least, according to Piccolo and his Kami contingent, souls are tested here, trying to cleanse themselves before they could finally go to their final resting place or start afresh in another life. According to Porunga, this place was the thing that saved the souls of the Saiyans from erasure completely. This was the closest Shenron could do to getting rid of Saiyans from Universe 7. The Saiyans were far too strong for Shenron to erase them completely. Shenron's no Beerus, and so he thought of the next best thing. Move them somewhere else. Out of sight, out of mind and all of that, Shenron thought. However, Frieza had some objections to this, and a lot of questions. Wait. I've been in Hell. This looks nothing like it. Why wasn't I sent here? Piccolo shook his head though. Clearly, the tyrant hadn't understood any of what had been described.
This is not hell, Frieza. This is what you get after you decide that you want to purify yourself and be born again as a new being. You never decided that. Think of this like, purgatory, reincarnation and all that.
Frieza was getting a little grumpy though at this unfair perk. This is ridiculous. No wonder I have such an inner disgust for something like this. You people really don't make it easy to join your team. You do know that, don't you? So much effort. The Namekian took a deep breath. The Emperor was really getting on his nerves, and something fierce.
In order to find a way to another life, right? The soul has to get rid of their negative energy and leave it all behind. All that is left here, so that soul can start anew somewhere else.
Bulma looked at both of them for a second. Well, that's good, isn't it? Because our friends and family are the good guys. I bet they don't have any negative energy whatsoever. Why are you two looking at me like that? Did I miss something? This time, both Frieza and Piccolo were on the same page. Will you tell her or shall I? Frieza glanced at Piccolo. Bulma then sighed out loud. Don't bother. I get it. Vegeta. Of course, it's always Vegeta.
I'm not sure how this labyrinth would react to living people skulking around. We need to remember that it's not designed to host living beings.
Can we talk with someone that runs the place? A Kai? A god of destruction? An angel? Bulma moved around, checking some of the doors in the realm of infinite corridors.
No one runs this place. This isn't like some kind of company like King Yema's thing. Well, at least not according to Kami's knowledge. This place is supposed to run itself, for all eternity.
Great.
Let's just find your stupid friends and give Cooler what he deserves.
And so the three of them started wandering around, randomly checking doors. But the corridors then seemed to have corridors of themselves. This place seemed endless.
So what is the point of this test? It's just random for random's sake.
Frieza was getting really frustrated at this, the inanity of this.
I should probably mention,
Piccolo looked uneasy.
that time works differently here. The feeling of it, you know. While to the outside world we've only been gone for a few seconds, it could be millions of years for us.
What?
It can also just be hundreds. Again, time works differently here.
Do we age here? How does that work?
Screamed Bulma. Thankfully, Piccolo genuinely didn't know about that part, so his dithering about the subject seemed genuine.
Oh, what happens if you die here? I don't have a few hundred years lifespan unlike you two.
Frieza glanced at her.
Believe me, I do not plan to be stuck here for hundreds of years. I have far more pressing matters to attend to. Yeah, concerns that got us in this mess in the first place, because you didn't want to take care of your son.
Bulma seemed rather accusatory and really on fire.
That was a ruse, you idiot! I didn't abandon him. He was supposed to make you guys' lives miserable, torment you. He failed at that. More like you failed. Kuriza's a lovely boy. He liked it here, and we liked having him here. I'm pretty sure he enjoyed it more here than being a part of your conquest, a pawn in your little game. My Kuriza is clever. He fooled you with his clever acting.
Frieza was starting to boil, but Bulma wasn't convinced.
As if. I'm a mother of two, Frieza. I know when a child is enjoying themselves when I see one. You can't fake that. He liked playing with my daughter and Goku's granddaughter, for the lack of other entertainment.
Bulma could tell that Frieza was on the defensive, and so she decided to keep digging. It was a very rare opportunity to have the advantage over Frieza here.
Really? What sort of entertainment were you giving him, Mr. Emperor of the Universe? More galactic conquest for dinner?
Bulma was getting to her wit's end.
Bulma, I really don't think this is the time for...
If I'm gonna be stuck here with this sociopath for millions of years, we may at least have this out of the way right now. He likes conquest. He is not a soft mammal like you lot. Maybe he likes it, because it was the only way he could spend some time with you. Well, that's
company. It turns out that he created Kuriza so he could have some company. He didn't know if that was what his father felt also. You see, contrary to popular rumours, King Cold expected a lot from Frieza, especially after the lack of results and ambiguity around Cooler. There was never a proper loving relationship between them though. It was purely for succession purposes, to ensure that the lineage would continue. Nothing more. Frieza wasn't sure if he even understood the concept of love. What was that? But at the end of the day, there were times that Frieza and Kuriza did enjoy their company. Sometimes. I mean, I'm not saying that Frieza wanted to have his father back, and he was pretty sure that he would be in the same boat here if the roles were reversed. Would Kuriza want to be in Frieza's company anymore after this? But why did he so desperately miss that little scamp? It was so confusing. And also, why had this human woman gotten under his skin so easily? And he just took it. And why, instead of blasting her away, did he simply let her carry on? It seemed that he didn't feel like blasting her away. That was new. We will return to this conversation later, human woman. For now, let us go and find your friends.
How? How do you intend to do that then? You got a plan?
I don't know. But if you're such a good mother yourself, I'm sure a couple of million years won't be an issue for you.
How dare you?
But Frieza wasn't listening anymore to Bulma and had gone to the front of the queue. After some time though, it really felt like that time didn't matter anymore. They were hungry, thirsty, but they weren't feeling like they were going to die or anything like that. They weren't given the satisfaction of that. This place was bizarrely keeping them going, but yet the pain of wanting remained. They were just suffering, but they kept walking regardless. I mean, of course, Piccolo was the one that was taking this on board with the most stoicism, used to this kind of malnutrition and wanting. Then, after many more countless hours of who knows what, Frieza eyed Bulma when she took out her phone, looking at photos of her family. She'd looked wistful about this, and luckily, for some unexplained reason, the charge of the battery wasn't dropping. Again, time was acting weirdly here, and so, well, I guess the battery must have been extended indefinitely, seemingly, because it didn't know how time worked either. Frieza peered over Bulma's shoulder. The little one. Is that your daughter? That's a new one. I haven't seen that one before. Yeah, it is. Bulla. I don't have any pictures of Kuriza. It's a weird tradition that you lot have. We capture moments that make us happy, Frieza. Or that we feel that we need to remember. Bulma swiped through a few more photos. One which showed a picture of Kuriza, in fact, together with Pan and Bulla, dirty, scuffed up and exhausted, but happy after a whole day of play. The kids seemed rather happy. Frieza tilted his head a bit. I hope he won that day. Is everything a conquest to you? Thank you for showing me that, Bulma. Wait, did you just call me? If you tell anyone, I will blow your moon to pieces when we get out of here. Bulma smirked. Sure. After a moment of silent conciliation, they heard an angry roar from behind a locked door not too far away. Someone was not happy here about being imprisoned. They weren't alone, seemingly. Piccolo stopped for a second.
Wait, I know that voice. Is that...
Frieza gulped. He knew too. Some flashbacks had rushed past him, before his very eyes. Oh, I know very well that voice. Or that grunt. Broly, Piccolo smiled. Finally, he had some kind of understanding about this place aside from the obvious.
Good news is, I think I know how they're being imprisoned. Bad news is, we need to get him out as well.
How? How are we supposed to do that?
Well, it seems the only way to open this door is from our side. He can't do anything from his side.
Do we need to save him?
Frieza!
Piccolo and Bulma glared at him.
All right. But you do know that I'm the only one capable of surviving his rage. You two would be torn apart in an instant if you tried.
We know. And that's why you need to hold him off enough so that he can calm down. I'm sure he being ripped away from his friends is something that would have made him at least a little bit cranky. We're bringing back all of them. No one gets left behind. I'm gonna open this door no matter what you do, so you better have a plan.
Frieza took a deep breath. Here goes nothing. He opened the door. Broly, my friend! But Broly wasn't having any of it, and his first instinct was to start attacking Frieza. And he rushed onto him with all of his anger and fury. Find the others! Go! That was the sum amount that Frieza could yell at that point, as Broly was making a punching bag out of his head. I've trained a bit since we last met, you simpleton. I will show you the true might of golden Ow! Why does it hurt so much? But the more that Broly was punching Frieza, the faster and shorter the corridor felt for Bulma and Piccolo. Man, they really couldn't wait to get out of here to a place where time worked as intended. First, they found Bulla and Pan. Luckily, they were held together in the same room. Shenron obviously had some sort of mercy for the poor girls. They treated Bulma to an onslaught of kisses and hugs, as well as whoops of relief. Then, they found Trunks and Goten. Both teenagers had been trying to show some amount of brave faces, but they were admittedly pretty shaken too. Then they found Tarbell, who was pretty confused as to how he even got there. Then there was Gohan, who seemed very concerned about all of the conferences that he had missed. Lastly, obviously, they found Vegeta and Goku. Any idea on how we can get out of here? Says Goku. What's that ungodly noise?
Oh, that? Piccolo blinked twice. Oh, that's Frieza holding Broly off for us.
They could hear Frieza's voice in the distance. And Goku was pondering for a while.
My instant transmission can't get us out of here. But maybe, if you all give me your power, we can somehow jump out of here nonetheless?
I'm not sure this is how it works, Kakarot. Vegeta looked at him.
I know. I usually have to focus on an energy source, but what if we reverse that?
Piccolo looked around.
That would require a lot of energy, which means we need to calm Broly down. Without him helping us, I doubt that your plan would work.
But then when they reached Broly, thankfully, the Berserker had started to cool off a bit, and he recognized Kakarot, who managed to reason with him.
Broly, we need your help. We can take you back to Chila and Lemo, but first, you need to help us.
Chila.
The sole mention of the name caused Broly to power down completely, the chance to be back with his friends soothing the beast. Frieza lay there, battered and broken, but alive.
Oh, I'm enjoying the sight of this very much. Can't we just leave him here?
Vegeta laughed to himself.
No.
Surprisingly, that was Bulma who was defending the Space Emperor.
He helped us get here. Also, Kuriza needs a father.
Vegeta looked a bit surprised, but he didn't want to irritate Bulma. When Frieza got back up and dusted himself off, all of the Saiyans started to use their power for Goku. The first few tries really weren't all that successful. After all, this is not how instant transmission was supposed to work. But Goku started to modify the feeling of it, trying to repel himself instead of trying to find himself close to something. Everyone put their hands on him, and finally, and quite suddenly, it worked. They appeared on Namek, breaking free from the Earth prison. But still though, the whole thing really had drained their energy considerably. Nobody had any meaningful energy left. They couldn't fight after this. Goku laughed.
I don't want to do that again.
Frieza glared at them. Fine, have a nap. But after this, we go after Cooler. It's time to get my Kuriza back. Cooler's fate clearly had seemed to be settled. So there we have it. Frieza, Bulma, and the Saiyans are back in our reality, having escaped the confines and weird time distortion of the Earth prison. Their return did not go unnoticed though, them being greeted by a rather pleased Kikuno, and Frieza gets an additional nod of approval from Berry Blue. It was clear to her that some sort of coming together of minds had gone on wherever they had gone, and Frieza was actually playing ball with his supposed enemies. That had to only be a good thing. The Namekians also seemed to be calmer upon their return, seeing that their allies were safe and sound. You know, just in case Frieza here would try anything funny, because he has been known to do that. Frieza too was indeed happy to see his minions there ready to greet him. But of course he had to keep up appearances, now that they were back where they belonged. He coughed and changed tack. And where have the two of you been? I thought you were behind us. Frieza scoffed at Kikuno. Bulma, watching all of this go down, sighed. If any change were to happen to Frieza, it would be a very long and gradual one at that. Kikuno bowed profusely.
Lord Frieza, we thought we were getting transported as well. We swear, it's not our fault, honest!
Berry Blue meanwhile smirked.
This must be destiny at play. I suppose the dragon thought that we wouldn't be needed on this particular mission. And besides, you were gone for mere minutes.
Frieza blinked for a second. That didn't feel like minutes at all. He was about to chastise Berry Blue for that glib remark, but then remembered that time didn't work in the Earth prison the same way it did here, and so therefore, Frieza held his tongue and changed topic. And he was right. We have dealt with it. Now, it's time to go for Cooler. Vegeta, however, eyed Frieza coldly.
That shouldn't be a problem, since we clearly outnumber that brother of yours. He might be stronger than you, but I'm pretty sure myself or Kakarot can take him down with no trouble.
Broly looked puzzled at Goku.
Should I help too?
He looked a little pained at this, like he really didn't want to fight if he didn't have to. Goku, Vegeta, and Frieza then looked to each other, and for once, they saw eye to eye with no prompting. Frieza nodded.
You know what, Broly? I think you've had enough adventures for one day. We'll take you back to your friends.
Kikuno looked surprised.
Lord Frieza! This monkey is one of our strongest weapons! Why would we allow them to send him away?
Frieza sighed and crouched to look Kikuno right in the eyes.
First of all, his name is Broly. Second, I have already assisted in calming him down once. I'd rather not go through that again today. Unless I could task you with this job, Kikuno.
The scientist swallowed loudly.
I see, my lord. Very well.
And so Goku took Broly back to Vampa to Chidai and Lemo, who looked relieved and as if they were ready to get themselves going to depart the planet in order to look for their giant friend. Now they didn't have to. Phew! Goku told them what had happened and to make sure that Broly got a lot of rest. He'd been through a lot. Chidai nodded. With that, Goku bade them goodbye and headed back to the main group. They contacted the Galactic Patrol for assistance and used their then delivered intel in order to find Cooler. It seemed that the new Emperor had been busy, calling all the Frieza forces together in order to reinforce for a potential consolidation, and perhaps conquest mission. The Galactic Patrol were very happy to have the Dragon team on their case. After some time spent with copious amounts of interstellar travel, they found a fleet of Frieza Force ships, which Frieza immediately recognized as his, that had been stolen from him by his brother.
I know what makes that fleet tick. We will have to fight our way through it.
Frieza cracked his knuckles. Vegeta laughed to himself. Today was going to be a good day for him after all.
Freeza, I'm going to enjoy beating the crud out of your minions.
Frieza wagged his finger.
Those smart enough to know better will stop attacking us as soon as they see me enter the fray. As for the rest who are too blind or too stupid to understand, or maybe have had it in for me secretly all this time, be my guest, monkeys.
And as such, with the Saiyans dressed in spacesuits, our heroes started the attack on the unexpected forces of Frieza. And much like Frieza predicted, some of the foot soldiers actually started to help their emperor, seeing that he was back, very happy to see a familiar face. They had explained to him that whilst Cooler hadn't been a bad leader per se, he was an extremely regimented one. There was far more work to be done on the daily with him around. Frieza, meanwhile, was relatively lax in some ways. As long as things got done to a decent click, it was all good. Frieza didn't know how to react to this, but he took it. You know, they liked him better than Cooler. Gohan, Goten and Trunks, as well as Piccolo, were supported by Bulma on the technical front, and with the aid also of Kikuno and Berry Blue, they were busy routing the Frieza loyalists against the defectors. Some though remained loyal to Cooler, having been convinced to pledge allegiance to him. But after everything was said and done, really, they managed to get aboard the main vessel, the capital ship itself. Upon entering, their way was ultimately blocked by the armored squadron.
Well, I do not know how you managed to bring back these monkeys, but Monsieur Cooler would not be taken down so easily, especially with us around,
Salza exclaimed. Frieza looked at the Saiyans. Be dears, and will you take out these fools for me? I'm going after Cooler.
Last time out, he gave you a thorough beating. I remember it clearly.
Vegeta raised his eyebrow. If that proves to be the case, then you will have another chance to give him one if I fail. Stop it. Goku nodded, and himself and Vegeta started their fight with the squadron, who thanks to their genetically modified durability, were now even stronger than the last time they had fought. Frieza, however, managed to duck and dive his way past the loyalist men and got to the bridge of the ship with minimal damage. Cooler, though, was clearly ready for him. He was sitting in the captain's chair, his chair, with his tail coiled around Kuriza, who at this point looked pretty lifeless, struggling to stay conscious. He started clapping slowly.
Well, you did it, brother. You had to resort to bringing back the Saiyans to even hope to fight me.
Frieza clenched his fists.
What have you done to him?
Cooler casually looked to the limp Kuriza.
Your precious little runt. Don't worry, I merely sedated him. I'm not an animal, brother dearest, he's my nephew. You might find solace that I plan to make him a proper heir to our empire, one that doesn't fraternize with monkeys. Why you instilled that in him after all you've been through, I have no idea.
Cooler stood up, with Kuriza still wrapped around his tail, then prepared for battle then and there. They then powered up to their golden forms. Frieza attacked furiously, while Cooler was using his size advantage, and even with his tail busy holding Kuriza, he was a terrifying opponent, especially since Frieza was still a little worn out after the whole Earth prison thing. And even though he got some pretty good hits on him, Cooler still managed to overpower him.
I've trained a bit for the last few days, you know, just in case you would decide to show up, somehow. You always find some way to crawl back.
Cooler grabbed Frieza by his neck and held him upwards.
No, brother dearest, it's over. The Saiyans might be stronger, but I have all the firepower I need in order to... Ah! You little scamp!
It was Kuriza who had bitten Cooler's tail, causing him to let go of Frieza.
Kuriza! Leave Papa alone!
A small destructo disc flew towards Cooler's face, leaving a small cut in its wake.
You arrogant little...
But Frieza was free, and he managed to hit Cooler with a kidney punch.
Get out from there, Kuriza! Now!
Kuriza wanted to protest, but his father was clearly serious. On his way out of the bridge, Kuriza saw Goku and Vegeta.
Mr. Vegeta, sir! My papa needs help!
Vegeta rolled his eyes in a knowing manner.
Of course he does.
Vegeta scoffed further, but he did feel a little better, seeing that the runt was alive and well.
You see, Vegeta, Monsieur Cooler is the strongest fighter in the whole
Vegeta, though, had had enough and simply just punched Salza into a wall. Though by the sound of it, it would seem that he actually made a hole in at least 3 walls. Then, combining his forces with Goku, he blasted away the remaining members of the squadron. Seems that if you punch them really hard, Goku started talking.
Don't even think about finishing that sentence, Kakarot.
The 2 Saiyans, along with Kuriza, rushed back to the bridge, where they saw Cooler and Frieza in full-on clash mode, in a deadly embrace.
I will give you this, brother. You are ferocious, but we have an army with a firepower that could wipe out even the strongest of warriors. We can work together, and you can have your little revenge against the Saiyans after all.
Frieza eyed Goku and Vegeta, then sighed. No, if I'm going to destroy those fools, I will do it on my own terms. But today isn't that day. Gentlemen, would you give me a hand here? Goku and Vegeta smirked, and what came next was pretty similar to what Frieza was getting from Broly back in the Earth prison. All 3 of them, Goku, Vegeta and Frieza, were giving Cooler a thorough drubbing, not really giving him a chance to do anything in return, ultimately beating him out of his golden form. Finally, Cooler fell to the ground, defeated. He looked up, tired and weary.
We could have worked together, brother. This is foolish.
You know, Father really should have taught you how to haggle. Frieza started to charge a small death ball in his hand, but then looked to Kuriza. He then aimed it at Cooler, and then he extinguished it. It's funny. After all that you've done, I don't even really feel like killing you. What would be the point, really? You know Galactic Patrol officers, right?
No is a rather strong word.
Vegeta looked at Frieza. Do they have some way of suppressing his energy?
If not, I'm sure Bulma can think of something.
Cooler's eyes widened.
Are you out of your mind?
Frieza grinned. You said it yourself, brother. We are family, and I don't feel like hell would teach you anything. It didn't do for me. But I think a prison would hurt your ego much more. And with a quick kick from Frieza, Cooler lost consciousness. Then, the Space Emperor looked at his son. Are you all right?
Yes, Father.
That was a rather good destructo disc.
Really? You mean it? I mean, thank you, Father.
Frieza patted Kuriza on the back. It's time to tell those fools outside to stop fighting. Can you two take my brother to the Galactic Patrol? I'm sure that Jarko fellow will be most pleased. Then Frieza turned around to his comms console to announce his victory. But before the Saiyans left, dragging the unconscious Cooler behind them, Kuriza quickly turned to them and smiled. Goku winked at him, and Vegeta gave him a sneaky thumbs up. But Salza was not yet done. They might have defeated Monsieur Cooler, but he still had some fight left in himself. His body may have been broken, but if he could reach the ship's engine core, he could take down those fools unawares. Monsieur Cooler himself surely would be durable enough to survive the explosion. Yes, he could almost see it, and he would have been successful. Had he not been stunned by a shot from a stun gun in the back? You know, said Prune, looking at his stun gun, and later on shifting his gaze onto his companion Bilberry. I never liked that guy. And so, the civil war of the Frieza Empire was over, with Cooler and the armored squadron imprisoned inside a highly specialized cell block within the Galactic Patrol. That being the biggest shame the would-be Emperor could even imagine. After all was said and done, Frieza sent his ship to Earth to discuss something. When he landed, he saw that Kuriza was glad to see Pan and Bulla, but he tried to look menacing by his father's side to keep up appearances. He gazed upon Goku, Chi-Chi, Vegeta and Bulma. Quite a long day that was. Quite, Bulma responded. I think someone has earned himself a vacation. Frieza patted Kuriza on the shoulder. Papa? Do you like it here, son? I am ready for the conquest. If you need me, No, be honest with me. Do you like it here? I won't get mad. Kuriza looked at his friends, at the Saiyans and the humans. Today was fun, but I want to spend some time with you. Frieza kneeled to be at the level of his son's eyes. Well, I will come and visit. For real this time. But you must know that the monkeys and I, well, we don't get along that much. But I'd rather you get stronger doing what you like than pretending for my sake. Kuriza looked at his father. When you're older, you will take your place at my side. But for now, I think you will benefit more from being here.
I will miss you, father.
Kuriza looked at him. Frieza paused for a second and patted him on the head. And I will remember how you saved my life today. And before he left, he turned around on the ramp and looked at the Saiyans. Don't think that we are buddies now. I'm merely returning favors. Vegeta smirked.
Never thought otherwise. One day, I will beat you more than we beat Cooler today.
I can't wait. And the ship departed, with Kuriza looking to the sky until the vessel vanished from view. After it had gone, Vegeta walked up to Kuriza.
So, what are you waiting for, Runt? Go and have fun or something.
Yes, sir.
And this day, Mount Paozu was loud with the happy screams of 3 children. Meanwhile, Frieza had a new decoration on his bridge. A small picture of Kuriza, all muddied up, but happy. Every new recruit had been advised to never ask about it. Otherwise, Lord Frieza would gladly blast their kneecaps off. Though Very Blue did notice it, that since this particular element had popped up on their vessel, Lord Frieza, he seemed noticeably happier. And that's where we end things. So what did you folks think? Did you find this story of Frieza's journey through parenthood rather wholesome? Do you think that Kuriza himself would wind up being a good successor to Frieza? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I'll see you in the next video. Catch you later!